there's going to be a hell of a lot of noise just a week prior when we see the rematch of Eubank Ben.
Oh,
Boy,
man.
the noise was deafening.
Were you there?
Of course I was there. Where else am I going to be? What else could I possibly be doing on that night,
I was
Shawn?
in America. So you're an American, so I had to ask.
Well, this is another fight where weight is a part of the narrative. A fighter coming up heavier than you would expect to see him fighting. A fighter who has more tread on the tire, if you will, more rounds in the bank, who is the heavier guy. Now, this guy has already won the fight once. Does it change second time out?
I thought Chris Eubank did what he had to do. And the other kid's name is escaping me. Eubank versus
Conor Benn.
Conor Benn, excuse me. Ben, this is why I think it doesn't change. Ben showed to me what we won't see in this fight. Because we have the same thing. We have a Conor Benn who cuts from 68, 70 pounds to get to 147 pounds. Cuts from 175 to get to 154. You're not losing that weight, so you're carrying that weight, but you're carrying inexperience along with it. And one of the biggest inexperiences that he has is fighting a guy who's legitimately taller, bigger. And once he got past all of the big explosive punches that he missed, which of course helped slow him down anyway, he didn't know how to get at Conor Benn. And I think that's something that whether it's 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, I don't know if they're going to be able to figure out that equation. So I don't think it changes. The thing that may change is he may catch Chris Eubank with that big punch that he missed so many times in the first fight. If he does that, that changes the complexion of the fight, because I don't think that Chris Eubank has the best chin. And so I think that that's what could possibly change outside of catching that big punch. I think Chris Eubank handles it the way he did last time.
It seems like weight is a theme
It's like we're
nowadays
still here.
because I believe, as we talked about at the start of this conversation, it is necessary to make these spectacles for people to do things that we'd otherwise not expect them to do and would seem impossible.
Can I ask real quick? Something that could change or should change, not could, but should change moving forward. If there was a same-day weigh-in, the same-day weigh-in won't happen. But hypothetically, if there was a same-day weigh-in, I promise you, most fighters you would see fighting in the weight class above them, I would have been a junior middleweight if I had a same-day weigh-in. We were not going to take a risk at having to rehydrate for 12 hours or 10 hours or whatever it may have been. What I'm saying is what more fighters need to get into the rhythm of is fighting where your weight, where your body is at, instead of manipulating it. This weight manipulation for years and years and years and years and years, the only ones that don't do it are heavyweights. Floyd didn't do it because he was a 130 pounder that moved up to 147. So eventually he didn't have to do weight manipulation. A naturally small guy that moved up. Same thing with Manny Pacquiao. But a majority of us young guys now, we did it because we were watching them, and that's where they were superstars. And in order for us to become a superstar, we need to make that weight class. So it's a narrative that shouldn't be. You understand what I'm saying?
Not only do I understand, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And so few people even consider that that is how the sport once was, and for the most period of time, as far as the sport has been in existence, how this was dictated. You had to weigh in on the day of the fight. You had to make that weight. Most of the time of the fight was just off. There was no
And 15 pounds, right? I mean, in 15 rounds, right?
And 15 rounds.
So stop asking who would it be who in 19
and
such
they
and
were fighting
such.
so much more frequently, depending on how far you want to go back. I mean, the
Every other
rounds,
week, every couple months, every
27
month.
rounds.
My
I
goodness.
mean, it got crazy, but there are eras for a reason, and there are different times, like what is nutritionally available now, the kind of exercise you can do, what we know about the body, everything is in its own time and its own space. Beautiful, man. I see Devin Haney in the wings here somewhere. There are super fights on the horizon. We'll be in Riyadh in just a couple of months for that fight on November 22nd. What do you make of this matchup with Haney and Foreman?
You know, at first thought, and you have what best to do is you just take a look at what have you done for me lately, which is what my dad would always say that boxing only cares about. And we're looking at a Devin Haney in the ring with the Jose Ramirez, and excessive moving is what we got all night. We didn't get a lot of offense from him. The question becomes, does he do that again against a Brian Norman who doesn't mind throwing a jab, stepping to you, finding you, taking his time in those methods, but willing to hunt you down if needed. And I think most people think that this is going to be a situation where Brian Norman hunts down Devin Haney, and this is a one-sided slaughtering from Brian Norman. I don't believe that. I understand what have you done for me lately and moving the way that he did against Ramirez, but I think that this was just a situation where he was getting his feet wet after a really bad performance against Ryan Garcia, and I don't think he's going to come to the ring the same. I think he's going to box a lot more like we saw in his fight with Rigoro. And I think that's what this fight is going to look like with Regis Prograis. I think it's going to look a lot more like that, where it's the cat and mouse, the hit and not get hit situation. I think it's a really good boxing match. I don't know if it goes to I can't predict this one yet. And I just want to remind everybody out there that you haven't seen a lot of Brian Norman, but you have seen a lot of hurt from Brian Norman. Understand that he's more than just hurt. You know what I mean? So he may be able to box with Devin, catch his timing, catch his speed, and jab with him and things like that. So I think it's going to be a good boxing match, but I can't call it right now.
That's one of those fights that could make a star out of Norman, or could solidify who Devin Haney says he is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't think Norman's coming into this with the kind of name recognition or visibility that it really warrants as this matchup is on the horizon. Like, this is a hell of a good fight that most boxing fans inside would know what a great matchup it is. But on the day, whoever prevails just might be a level up in their stardom, right?
Yeah.
For Devin Haney's sake, is it a greater challenge because you know how much is on the line, that the fight with Garcia, like you talked about, his fight at Times Square, which was not super impressive performance and made people question him more. There's so much in it for him that's not even to do with the opponent, but to do with his own self-image and how he wants to be perceived and what he has to prove on the night. How much does that weigh on a fighter going into a fight that most people who are not really into the X's and O's just expect him to win because they don't know the other guy's name as well?
Yeah, it's been a struggle for Devin because while people don't understand the X's and O's, they look at his style and, it's not a fun style, or it's not a style that's interesting, all of those things. And I think he has between his speed and what he's able to do, he's tremendous, but I think that there's a lot on his mind, because the difference between him and a Brian Norman, who's a little bit more fan-friendly, even though he's not as notable and known as Devin Haney at this point, I think it's Devin's job to ignore the outside noise and do what got you here, do what you're so very good at doing. And I think that it's been hard for them to ignore the noise. So if you can't ignore the noise and you're changing your style to fit what people are saying that you should do, and even in that fight with Ryan, what Ryan was telling him he should do, he literally did what Ryan told him to do, which I thought was moronic. The question becomes, now you're getting other things like, can you handle the power? And Brian's going to do this, and Brian's going to do that. They got to learn how to lock out the noise.